another thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey guys, we are broadcasting live.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I just wanted to welcome our state presidents while everyone is logging in. We have way too many, let's see here. We have way too many Zoom accounts. So we had to get Hoby in and then promote him. So he should be joining us any moment.
There he is.
Look at that.
There he
Problem
is.
solved.
Like
There we
magic.
go. Hi,
Hoby, I'm gonna
everybody.
hand the
Everybody doing
torch.
today?
There
I'm
you
good.
go.
Good. Glad everybody could jump on. I think we're having participants. Looks like we still have a couple people coming on. So good morning, everyone. Say hello. Glad to have everybody with us. It's good to be back with one of our town hall meetings. I know it's been a few months, and that's sort of a little bit by design, just because how busy everyone has been and just how swamped. But we thought coming in before Thanksgiving, we'd come back to one of our town hall meetings and try to connect with those of you that have time to jump on. We've got some great questions that were sent in advance. We'll come to those in a little bit, but I also asked a bunch of the state presidents if they had time to join us today in their busy schedules. So we do have with us Chris Burdick from the Midwest Marketplace, Tom Saponis from Pennsylvania, Dennis Sestra from the Southeast Virginia market, and Al Peachy from the great state of New York. So thanks everybody for jumping on. I appreciate it. And so I thought we'd start just with a little bit before we get into the questions. And the other nice thing about having this great group of folks here is that they can answer some of the questions probably better than me, especially the ones that are above my pay grade. So, but I thought what we take just a minute or two, just, one of the nice things about these webinars is that we get a cross section of folks from all different markets, agents with different questions from all different markets. So I just thought if each of you would just give us a little bit of flavor for your market area, what you're seeing, and just also be nice. I know this is a time of year that we're doing a lot in the community and giving back, and it would just be nice to hear that because I think it's one of the value propositions of Howard Hanna and who we are, that we do not just sell a lot of real estate, but that we really are hyper local in our communities and give back. So Dennis, why don't we have you give us a little update on what's happening in the great state of Virginia?
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody out there in Hanna Land. Like a lot of our markets, the Virginia market is really tight right now, moving very quickly. And we have had a wonderful year. Just for October, we are up 11% in listings. The market was down about 5%. Business year to date is up 26%. So fortunately, we were able to do business throughout the entire pandemic. And I think it's a true testament to the professionalism and just the perseverance of all of our agents, not just in Virginia, but throughout our entire markets. But through this time, not only have we been doing more business than we were doing last year, and really more business than we've almost ever have, but doing things to give back to the community. We have had agents support the local food bank through their summer feeding program. I believe we gave close to about 50,000 meals that goes to rural residents in Southeast Virginia that might not have access to their local food pantries. We have, we're underway with our Chow Chow season. I was just at a pansy sale for the Little Creek office. They raised $8,000 from selling flowers. People love pansies, I guess. So now I have a bunch of them in my front yard. The town center office just had a trunk or treat for Halloween, which raised over $11,000, and many other offices are kicking. But one thing I did want to say is, we're always looking to add more people to our team. And throughout the pandemic, we've been able to do that. We want to build for the future. So we have added, I don't know if everybody can everybody see my screen or not?
Uh-huh.
All right, so we have our Fast Start class for 2038. We've already booked a few, but top left we have Eli Cardwell, who is Mike Cardwell's son, that was born a few months ago. Mike is our facilities manager in Virginia. We have Jolie Roberts. Her father is Colby Roberts out of our Williamsburg office. Her grandfather is also an agent for us. Jay Colley out of the same office. Then we have Dia. Look at Dia right there. her mom is Deanna Grady, who's the assistant manager of Barristers, and then Maddox Savage, whose mother is Christy Savage out of our Great Bridge office. So Hope put me down for 4 new recruits for Fast Start coming up. State of Virginia's taken a long time in licensing, so we're going to get their application right now so that we can get them licensed and ready to go in a few years. But I'll stop sharing here and let somebody else go.
That's very cute, Dennis. Very cute. So thank you. So Chris, how are things in the Midwest and what's happening there?
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be with everybody this morning. The Midwest market is booming. It's hot. It's, as Dennis said, our market is moving very fast as well. We are continuing to work with our many buyers and sellers and build our listing inventory. We're also focusing on capturing for sale by owners and working with expired listings to get that inventory up. In our markets too, we've had excellent attendance at open houses, and some of them have been virtual and obviously practicing safe distancing, but our open house attendance has been phenomenal. And we have a lot of sellers that really do want open houses. So the market's hot, it's busy, it's active. The sales associates are still, everybody's really, really busy. So we're having some great success in the Midwest markets. I wanted to also share a few things that in our market that some of the offices are doing. In addition to their Chow Chow events, everybody's been really reaching out and providing different services in their communities. In Chagrin Falls, for example, our Chagrin Falls office, they are working with the Chagrin Valley Women's League, and they're putting together family take-home boxes for the holidays. It's meant to support the families in need. So it's really great opportunity in the Chagrin Falls office. The Tecumseh office, they are in a small little town on a main street. So they're absolutely excited to be participating in the 12 Days of Christmas window display. They've got a big window right there on the main street, and they're all decorated. And then this weekend, they're going to be having the city lighting ceremony, which in the town of Tecumseh it's exciting and a big deal. So we're excited to be involved in that. And then also a lot of the offices, in addition to Tecumseh, have purchased trees to be decorated with the donation to Adopt a Family. And then in our Adrian office, the Adrian team is sponsoring a Christmas tree on the Riverwalk. And so there's some exciting things and some great community givebacks there in Michigan. In our Hudson office, again, it's a Main Street town with a big window on Main Street. They've had the Hudson Heroes helping neighbors get groceries, things like that. They're also supporting all the local merchants with their having a flash mob shopping event to support the little town there. And also they have holiday events called Destination Hudson with the story walk and things like that. So a lot of offices are really participating. We had a lot of offices involved in the trunk or treat, like you were talking about, Dennis. That seemed to be a big initiative this year. And in our Monroe office, they have the Monroe County Walk for Warmth, which they collect donations for those that are unfortunate to help with their heating bills. So, and we were really the only real estate company that participates in that. And they also have a lot of holiday events as well. So it's just been a very, very great time for us to be giving back to our communities, and the communities are very appreciative. And we've got all kinds of events from now through the end of the year. So that's what's going on in the Midwest.
Thanks, Chris. Great. So I'm going to jump to Mr. Al Peachy and New York State. What are you seeing in your great state of New York?
Yeah, thanks, Hoby. Good morning, everyone. So consistent with what Dennis and Chris said, we're still seeing a lot of multiple offer situations. We're still seeing, listings come on the market, but they have slowed up a little bit from where they were 30 or 60 days ago. Certainly still a very strong second home market up this way, with people coming up from New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut. So that's really helped the market as a whole in Eastern New York, whether it's been in the southern tier or Syracuse or the Albany region. So the market's percolating along well. I do expect we're going to have a pretty strong close to the year, even with new written business that's going to be ahead of where we were in 2019. And certainly closings are lagging a little bit in New York State, but I do suspect we're going to pick up the pace as we move through November and December to really get those transactions closed. So I'm looking forward to a great close to the year. On the community involvement side, a lot of good stuff that Eastern New York is doing. One of the nice things they do in Central New York is every year they have a fish fry truck come to the Camillus parking lot. It's called Doug's Fish Fry, and it's a huge fundraiser for the Golisano Children's Hospital. So it's been widely successful. There's always a line of people going to the fish fry truck, and they use that as a fundraiser for the hospital. We have many offices that are doing dinners for families for Thanksgiving. There's certainly a lot of people in need of Thanksgiving dinners. I wish I could name all the offices that are doing it, but there's so many of them. And it's just a common theme across Eastern New York with so many offices supporting families during Thanksgiving. We've also done a lot of collection of non-perishable food items. Our Clifton Park office did that recently to support the local food bank and to also provide meals for lunches for children in schools this year that, didn't have that opportunity to have their lunch at their school and everything. So that's been a nice way to support the community also. And this is consistent across all of our offices, just giving back at Christmas time and providing gifts to needy families at the Christmas or the holiday season. A lot of offices do fundraising in the office. They collect money. The agents in the office go out and shop and then provide, whatever a family wants through a community organization to that community organization to support that family during the holidays. And a lot of offices like our Greenbush office also do Toys for Tots, which, certainly somewhat along the same lines of helping to support people during the holiday season. And really one of the last things that I think is great that we're doing is really trying to collect clothing for homeless shelters and needy families during the season where we start to go in a little bit of the colder weather and we get closer to actually seeing some snow on the ground here in Eastern New York. We did have some snow about a week ago, already had 2 to 4 inches in some places, but as we get deeper into the winter, there's a great need for clothing for needy families, and we're doing a lot of that in different markets. And I just want to kind of get away from the community side a little bit and talk about one other great story. Mark Ray, as part of our manager's advance the other day, Hoby showed us that we are the #1 ranked website, Howard Hanna, by Real Trends, which is obviously a national organization. Mark took that picture of our #1 website, reached out to an agent in his market, and now has an opportunity to sit down and meet with that agent because of that. But it's a great message for everyone, for all of you to know, and I'm sure Hoby's going to touch on it a little bit more as we move through the next few days, that we do have the #1 website as ranked by Real Trends. So a great testament to everything we're doing here at Howard Hanna. And I just want to close by saying I wish you all a safe and healthy holiday season. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Look forward to seeing you all in person, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Hal. Great. Appreciate it. Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Tom Saponis in Pennsylvania. What's going on there, Tommy?
Thanks, Hoby. Much like the other states and regions, we've had an incredible comeback from what we went through the COVID. I call them the COVID days. Not that we're out of it, but it was amazing to me in Pennsylvania when we were basically locked down for 2.5 months, how our agents responded virtually and learned how to do virtual open houses, learned how to do virtual transactions, learned how to take virtual listings. And that is really those agents that responded to that during those 2.5 months we were shut down are really experiencing a great resurgence to their business in June, July, August, September, October. So consequently, we are significantly up in Pennsylvania, and it appears that our numbers, we will probably be even by the end of this month compared to 2019, which is a remarkable turnaround considering we were down about in the neighborhood of 50% in April, May in business. So, kudos to everyone in Pennsylvania who really have done an amazing job just keeping their businesses going, responding, and just doing an amazing job of coming back. We're still focusing a lot on listings. Obviously, like in most markets, every market, not most markets, listings are critical. And, we're focusing on trying to give some activities through the managers, the offices to try and generate additional listings as we move into November, December, and January, because we know as we build those listing inventories in the next 90 days, that'll give us a tremendous jump start on 2021. So that's one of our main focuses. And, and I will say, Pittsburgh was the birthplace of the Children's Hospital campaigns. And over the years, our offices and our agents have been just incredible in supporting, the Children's Hospital campaign, obviously, which is our our major campaign and coming up with, now that we're doing so many things virtually, coming up with some creative and incredible ideas. And we've had virtual bingos. We've had virtual celebrity cooking event in an evening where you have a celebrity come in with a menu, and you have 40 or 50 people on a Zoom and they all cook with the celebrity. And it just, it was an amazing fundraiser, and it worked very, very well. Virtual purse bashes. We did have the trunk and treats like everybody else. One office had a trunk and treat. It was very, very successful. One office had a drive-through spaghetti dinner that the restaurant, he donated everything for the spaghetti dinners, and they served over 800 spaghetti dinners on a Friday night in cars, which was amazing. Our Fox Chapel office always did what they called a taste of Fox Chapel, where they had vendors come in and just demonstrate their best recipes. They'd have 5, 6, 7 restaurants come in. So they tried to figure out how they were going to do that. They actually did it virtually. The vendors were so supportive. They donated everything. They packed everything up in little takeaway bags, and everybody drove through and got their and they got their dinners, and they actually made more money virtually than they did in live. So really good stuff going on. And then in the market, some of the things that, when you start asking around, it's amazing how many things our agents are involved in the communities. And we've got people who are involved in the redevelopment authorities in their communities on a community level, their neighborhood revitalization areas. We have in Erie, a bunch of our agents involved in the Great Lakes Adopt the Beach, where they clean the beaches up every quarter in Erie, and things of that nature. We've got several offices during the COVID shutdown that packed up lunches and took lunches to the first responders that were working in the COVID units. They couldn't get out for lunch, and did that during the COVID days. And we've got a couple of really cool things going on. One of our agents on an individual level, she does on next Saturday, she's having a pumpkin pie giveaway to her customer base. That says, okay, great. What's that got to do with anything? But for every 10 pies that she gives away, she donates $50 to the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank. Now, last year she gave away over 200 pies. Okay, so you do the math, and so it's good stuff. And then we've got a couple of agents that have. One of our agents have donated numerous amounts of dinners, collected dinners for the local food bank for Thanksgiving dinners. And she will this year again also collect coats in January. So there's a lot of things going on with, we've got many officers donating to food banks, so a lot of good stuff going on. So
thank you.
Yep.
So, and Alan, please feel free to stay on. I know that Chris and Dennis actually are on a committee for something that's involved with our website. So somehow the crossover of meetings that we got, but an important meeting they had to jump off of, so they may join us back. And we did invite all the different market leaders, and unfortunately people had different things on their schedules. So Tom and Al, feel free to stay on, because I may on some of these topics or questions just throw them to you and see if you want to add some flavor. So it's just not me sitting here talking. So for everybody that's on there, we've got over 300 and some folks who joined us this morning. This is recorded. So managers that are there and other people, and I know that in some cases managers are having group settings with offices. So if you're in that group setting, welcome. This is recorded, so we obviously always send out the town halls, and they can be reused and watched when everybody's so busy and schedules are crazy. But the concept, we're going back to like what the original town hall concept was, which I used to do live in a lot of regions, and we made it more virtual. But just sort of everybody remembers what we ask in advance are some questions. As you ask questions, you as the agents, managers, ask questions and we had about 22 questions that came in last night from agents, all wonderful questions. I try to put them, because some of them are redundant. Some of them are the same questions or same general topics. So rather than just reading all 21 questions, what I do is I try to put them into an overarching framework, and I've narrowed that down to about 10 themes that are more or less out there by our group, and do my best to sort of directly answer those questions and be very transparent so that it builds a trust capacity between the company and our agents and management and everybody, because the success of this company is really about trust and knowing what's going on and knowing where you can go get an answer and understanding. And sometimes I may say I don't have an answer. And the great thing about these town hall events is that if it's a topic I don't know the answer to, and it seems very specific to an agent, it's one that I may call you or Tom or a leader may call specifically and say, hey, how can we address this wish with you? Because there were a couple questions that I think were very specific to an agent's individual issue, and we need to correct that maybe individually, but then look how the system gets better. So that's the goal. Now, what I would say to you is that in the Q&A, more preferable than the chat, so I can go back and forth, but we also can keep the Q&A. If you're online and you do have a question that goes about, I'll do my best to follow the Q&A and come back and answer some things. The nice thing about the Q&A is that we also Kate can save that, the education team can save that, and if there are certain topics, we can bring that back to leadership and management and improve what we're doing. So I'm gonna start with a topic which was what we sort of kicked off with. You heard all the leaders on the phone not only talk about how good the market is. We know, and we're going to get into the market, and we're going to get into what's happening in the market because it's definitely a topic. But we also heard our leadership team talk about all the events that are going on, all that we do as a company. It's part of our mission. It's part of our vision. It's part of our culture to give back. And it's not, it's amazing to me that in most of our markets, the support of the children's hospitals and the Chow Chow Drive, even what we're doing virtually to support that this year, beyond just selling the raffle tickets, just the events. You heard Tom give us a litany of them and others. I know that in every market, there's something going on. They've got, I'm not sure I understand it, even in we have this Queen of Hearts thing in Ohio that keeps building a pot. I'm not sure I understand it, but I think the pot's like almost $10,000 that somebody's going to win as people start participating, and it's all online. So some really, really cool stuff out there. And we heard everybody talk about it. Now, here's what I would say. The importance of kicking that off is that I think it's important we tell our story. And I think it's important that we share not just how many houses we're selling and what we're doing, but what we as a company, part of that culture. It's what attracts agents to us. It attracts the employees to us, and it attracts customers, that we really celebrate that we're giving back. It helps grow what we're raising, but by giving and showing that we care, I do think that real estate is hyper-local. It is, as we grow our business and our footprint across all these states, the one constant is that there is a tradition of giving back into the local community. And I think we should share that. I think we should share it on social media. I think we should share it in PR. I think we should share it when we're on a listing appointment and saying to a seller, this is part of what we do to make ourselves really connected to the community. I also would say that a couple questions came up, like, okay, where do I get updated, clean flyer for a Coats for Kids campaign? Where do I find out where the money went for the different children's hospital drives? How much went where? Maybe we missed a PR thing. Maybe sometimes we don't do a good enough job of reinforcing, here's what we raised last year, whether it's for a new hospital that's in the campaign or one that's been around for a while. I know that with the growth into Southern New York, I know that Matt Rand is leading with his group meeting next week to say, how do we take the Children's Hospital Drive, bring it into Westchester County and into the hospitals that service the market there. So we're going to make sure we get out as of today, because some of the questions, some of the marketing pieces and directing where you can find them, so you can promote Coats for Kids, know where we give dollars back in the community, what we did in 2019 and 20, what hospitals were supported, so that it makes it easier for you to even reach out, but also communicate that. So a couple questions that did come from that, but I do think it's important that we share that story. So I just want to mention that, and thank you to everybody that puts so much heart and soul and effort into that makes the company a great company. All right, so I'm going to jump into some of the questions that I've sort of gathered that have come in over the last 24 hours, 48 hours. The first is around COVID. Okay, so a little theme question around. Obviously, we've we've done an incredible job, in my opinion, throughout the entire company of sort of adjusting our business with our customers and clients around COVID. And we've seen, it is, as I've said from the beginning, the COVID's a challenge because we have all these different states that governors have different rules, mandates in different areas, best practices, trying to look at our own company and make sure everybody's safe and a good perspective. And so the question is, with the COVID increases right now, how's that going to affect business? What do we see? So a couple of things I would say there, and then I'll ask Al and Tom to jump in. But from my opinion, a couple of things we're seeing. We're definitely seeing spikes across the board. In fact, we saw, we've been, knock on wood, fortunate that I've not heard of any horrible issues that COVID's affected the Howard Hanna family as a whole. But we've seen spikes of infection come into different departments, managers, agents, regional managers, and it does seem like in the last week or so, we've seen a little bit of an uptick. We've been pretty good at distancing and keeping safe. I will say that I have heard report, we've had some complaints, about agents in the field not wearing masks, not doing, we were so diligent of, even in working with that social distancing, we worked really well of, washing our hands, keeping the distance, having a mask on, even if a customer says they don't want to wear a mask, make sure we wear a mask, having that registration, sort of being smart with not unnecessary appointments, using a lot of the online components that we've had, not only to market, but to communicate transactions. We even added, many of you saw, and guys, forgive me, is the name of the company Earnestly? Is that that we partnered with, so we can collect earnest money across the board from a distance, that we're able to collect that without having to exchange checks and hand and paper to everybody. So we've done a lot, I do truly believe. We'll watch and see whether states, governors and mandates come in and affect. I don't, I'm an optimist, as many people know. I don't think that our government can shut us down again, whether people think you should or not. I just think that could be really a challenge for the economy. However, if we find a state or area or governing body that says, hey, because of an uptick, because of different things, that they do sort of recoil whether we can have our branch offices open or other things. We've proven that our platform and our technology, we sold a lot of real estate even when everybody was home. Now, we don't want mandates that say you can't sell real estate, that's without a doubt. But if they say, hey, we got to do things more virtual, we have to be smart about things, we have the platform to do so. So I think that this little bit of this spike that we're seeing with more testing and more people having, and we're going into the flu season, I'm going to remain optimistic that we're going to sell a lot of real estate through this, and we're going to continue to sell a lot of real estate. We had the month of October company-wide was the biggest month in the history of the company. The pending and written deals don't seem to slow down in the month of November. People want to buy houses, they want to transfer, so we've just got to be there. But we've got to be safe and smart and make the right decisions. And please, I'd ask that if for some reason we do have to recoil and shut down, we don't do the shaming thing. We don't tell somebody what they should or shouldn't do. I think that's really important. That's just overall on that. Now, Al or Tom, do you guys have anything to add in terms of the safety aspect in your markets and what you're seeing?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, Hoby, and piggyback on that. I've had some questions from people that are working with a client that's coming from out of the area, whether it's Florida, whether it's Texas. How do they kind of work through that situation? And my comment's been, we just got to go back to where we were 5 or 6 months ago. Remember all the stuff that we did virtually. So can you go in a house and take a video of the house while that customer is in a separate car from you, so they can see at least the neighborhood and what's in the interior of the house? Those are things we just got to be smart about, I guess, remember what we did successfully before and how to implement some of those things that, as we move forward. Do we have to do a few more things virtually? Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case, especially with out-of-town people that may have to quarantine for a while when they come into the market.
Yeah,
I think
I would add to that, Al, and we'll talk about some ideas we have around the business. But I do think that one of the discussions that are taking place in an off meeting right now with the Chris and Dennis went to is looking at our website itself, and we'll touch more on that. But increasing, I think one of the things we're going to have to start talking about in offices is getting back to whether during the winter we may be increasing the virtual open house. Not saying we don't do open houses, but increasing the virtual open house, increasing the ability. What we did a really good job of with clients and customers is screen sharing as they looked on the website, setting up a virtual appointment and walking them through there, getting that person really excited so that if we are setting up the appointment, the actual urgency appointment, they've more or less seen the house already, different ways to collect those buyers. Because I do think you're right. There will be a little bit of that. What if somebody traveled? What if somebody does this and that? So I think we go back to really dusting off some of the great tools we have. And we as a company may be pushing more of that virtual open house through the winter. Still not saying you don't do regular open houses and meet your clients, but use that technology we developed and really leverage it. Tom, you were about to say something. So
Yeah, what Al said is critical. And I think that, in Pennsylvania, we're still under our green guidelines. And, we had resent those out again, I think about 2 weeks ago to everybody in the state. And, those are the guidelines we should be following right now. And I would just caution, and you touched on it, Hoby, about masking up. I would just caution the agents that, in today's world, you have to assume that there's a camera in every house that you go into, and people are watching. You really have to respect the fact that you should be masking up when you're going into the person's house, especially if they have a sign on the front door to, mask are required or whatever. So I think common sense needs to prevail. I think if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Or if you feel you need to take extra precautions, then take the extra precautions. But as long as we follow our guidelines, we should be good. And I think Hoby hit the nail right on the head. We probably are going to have to look at some more virtual integration as we move forward into November, December, and probably January. So. Great.
So staying in that same vein, so the effects on the business, and there were a series of questions. Okay, COVID, but then and we touched a little bit on it. How does that direct the use of virtual open houses, traditional marketing, manners in which we've marketed in the past? Any changes? Forget the spike and what that does for employees or comfort level of showing a house and being. I think we should go back to put yourself in a comfortable, safe position. But I do think that there's a long tail effect of what this virus, even, let's all hope that these vaccines that they're looking for are actually vetted and tested and we can get back to normalcy. And we should all hope that no matter what your politics are, that Pfizer and Lilly and others have can make the world go back. But let's just assume it does. I think what we've seen, not just in real estate, but in the whole country, is an emergence of technology, the usage of technology, the adoption of technology. I mean, how many people a year ago, if we were sitting here, if I would have said, hey, let's have a town hall meeting and everybody get on Zoom, how many of our agents, how many of you on this call would be like, how do you even get on Zoom? I mean, I still have a problem getting on Zoom, which is why this started late. But others, it was so foreign. Now it's like, it's the norm. It's the norm that we use Microsoft Teams, we use Zooms, go to meetings, webinars, not just in real estate, but across the board. So are there long-term tail things that will stay? I believe so. I believe that, and it doesn't mean that it should scare you. It should just mean that know that the company has your back to help you understand and develop how you get there. I mean, this investment that we made in this company earnestly to handle our online earnest money and escrow money deposits, that came out of agents back in March and April saying, I'm writing transactions, but what do I do? How do I get the check? I'm not supposed to meet somebody. I signed all my forms online. I've written the contract online. I've negotiated via Zoom and then had electronic signatures, but how do I get the earnest money? So we plugged this in, worked with our accounting department, IT department. That's going to be, I think that's more of a long-term effect. You still may need closings where people sit together, but I do think we'll start to see that a lot of the face-to-face that we do in our business, unfortunately, face-to-face in the traditional of sitting in somebody's kitchen may move to face-to-face like this. Let me walk you through the contract. Let me share it with you. Let me sign this electronically. Going back to, somebody might say, hey, even if there's a vaccine, there may be the long-term effect of, hey, let me pre-look at houses with you on a Saturday online, walking through, looking at 3D floor plans, the Matterports of the world, other products like that virtually look at houses. If I'm moving into a community, if I'm moving into Wexford from Cleveland, let me look at 10 houses on a Saturday within an hour online with an agent, and then narrow that down. And on Sunday, go look at the 2 or 3 I really want to see. I mean, I do think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see more of that, that become a long tail tradition. And we're looking ourselves as a company, a lot of what can we invest in from a technology platform and marketing to help you brand and market and support that in a sense. I do think that there will be changes. I think we will do more virtual open houses in the long haul. But I think we also have to take best of what we know. If you're doing virtual open houses, are you still using Spacio today? And are you using that open to close and getting that pre-registration? Even they have a virtual component of it, and we can give you training on that, where you can have somebody show them houses online, but have them come in and sign up, and then you get that registration, you get that support, connect it to Real Scout, so on and so forth. So I do think that a lot of what we build as a tech stack will enhance and evolve, but there will still be the relationship base of the business. There'll still be I'm betting on the direct demand for a real estate agent to navigate that whole process, to control that process, to represent that process. So, you know, it's a mix of the two things. Guys, do you see any specific trends that or things that are here to stay that we should embrace or maybe enhance that are out there? Tom?
I hope you, again, I think you're spot on. You know, the use, I guess the integration or the mixing of virtual versus live, and how do you use it to your best advantage? And it's not going to go away. I think we're going to, as we move into 2021, we're still going to have to use virtual platforms. You know, it's great that we're able to do some things now live, but even like closings, you know, I see agents coming to closings, and you know, at least in Pennsylvania is still one of the last states around that we still do these table closings, you know, and in all the other states, the agents don't even go to closings. You know, so I think that's going to probably change in Pennsylvania in 2021. I think you're going to see more virtual aspects of closings and things of that nature. But open houses, Hoby, you're spot on open houses. I think, you know, being smart about what we're doing about showings and how we're showing property going forward is almost very similar to what we went through when we were in that lockdown for 2.5 months. You know, so.
And I would just add to Hoby, I think the more that we can streamline the process, whether it's having, you know, documents stored electronically, whether it's using Earnest like we just launched, whether it's using DocuSign for digital signatures, all that technology is going to make agents more efficient and be able to do things more remotely and transact business in a way where there's not as much face-to-face contact. You know, I think we still want that face-to-face contact, but the reality of the situation may be that we're not to be able to do as much as of that as we move forward. So all the tools I think we're putting together and how we're structuring the transaction today, I think really fosters the ability to do that more remotely than we ever have had.
And I think the other thing is that and I'd ask this from the folks in the audience and throughout the company and leadership, that is that you're going to see trend lines, and not, let me say this, not things you want, but thinking what the consumer wants and thinking like a consumer around the housing transaction. You're going to see yourself doing some business, and you're on that front line with the client and customer and listening to them. So, you know, oftentimes sharing with us, like, hey, here's what you're seeing and here's a solution. That earnestly, that earnest money came from agents saying, like, it wasn't something we as a company were thinking about, to be honest with you. We didn't even know that there were so many providers. There was a handful of providers and banks that could do that. We got it back in March and April from those agents who were still transacting business and doing it online, saying, but how do I collect the earnest money if I can't really go meet the person? Can we use Venmo? Can we do something? So we looked at, and then you can look at that, like, that's, I mean, my kids, you know, they exchange currency electronically everywhere. You know, as a consumer, if we say, if my daughter who's 18, when she becomes a home buyer, if an agent was to say to her, okay, I need to meet with you for a check, I don't think she has a checkbook. I mean, so you know, we have to start thinking like the consumer. When we say, oh no, they want to come in and meet with us and do this and do that, not do anything online. I mean, they just announced this morning that one of those Grubhub or Open, whatever those, I mean, I should know the name of them because I spend a lot of money. DoorDash, that's the one, because my kids always are ordering, but because it's free. But, you know, food being delivered to the house, because your 16-year-old's hungry and decides at 11 o'clock at night to order a cheeseburger. I mean, and you're like, it does comes directly to you. You don't have to get in the car anymore. So we have to think about how our consumers think. I mean, I know that on the last car I purchased, I knew the car I wanted. I looked at it online. I called my local car dealer that I'm friends with, Jimmy Brown, who gave us our car to the summit a few months ago at Classic. And I called Jimmy and I said, here's the car I want. And, you know, the car came to my house, they dropped it off, said test drive it, came back 24 hours. I said, yeah, I like it. And all kinds of stuff was done electronically, and the guy dropped off the keys and handed me my paperwork. I mean, quite honestly, I did all the application online. I never went into their dealership. And that's how I wanted it. You know, that for me, I'm not a car guy. I just knew the car I wanted. I need a car to get me from point A to point B. And I wanted it convenient and it came to my house. So I think we have to think like today's consumer. Does today's consumer really want to get into the, do business the way we did it 20 years ago? Do they want to use technology to change? That's hard for us as agents because not what we did. So we have to look at how we blend that best salesmanship with the use of technology and help our clients. So I think that's the long-term tail effect of COVID that we're going to see. And we will bring you more training and education, both online and in person. But I think it's just important for us to be thinking about. And for you as agents and employees and managers, that you share with us, hey, we need this. Doesn't mean we can do it the next day, but we can look into the solution, look into the technology, look into how it does respond to our customers. That's going to keep us relevant and that's going to keep us growing. The other question that came around, it's around, I would say, COVID, because it's like this big picture thing. It's a little bit of crystal ball. It's a little bit of gut. But we did have a manager's advance this week, which we took our management team, was virtual focused. We had a great couple of days and we heard some great things, but one of the addresses that we heard was from a woman named Ivy Zellman, who spoke to our management team. We actually have her presentation recorded that we'll be able to share with agents. Ivy's an analyst in the housing market. So she sort of was looking at what does she think 21 and 22 will look like? Where's the market go? And a big part of what she addressed was around the election. And that was asked 3 or 4 times by agents. Hey, what's going on with the election results? How's that going to change? One agent even said, which was first I've heard, but that they've had several buyers stop their home search due to the results of the election. And how can we reassure our clients and maintain our business during a time of new leadership and a continued pandemic? So what I would say is, and this is, I'm coming at you from my perspective and then a little bit of what we learned from Ivy. The first is that I've seen enough elections in the month of November, December, and January when there's a transition in office. Obviously, this election is a crazy one, but let's just assume, I'm not going to get into politics. Let's just assume that we're going to have a transition of the president. Okay, President-elect Biden is the president. That's whose name it all gets cleared and done. It creates fear in people. Anytime I've seen it in the past. I've seen it when President Obama was elected, and that was at the height of the Great Recession, and policy could potentially change. What was going to happen? It was really a period of time where the market really did froze. In his first election, the market froze in November, December, and January. It really, really did, because but remember, we were in that deep recession. Now, this changes. What policy is going to change? What procedure is going to change? What is President-elect Biden's housing and tax policy versus the other? Well, we can all pay attention to the presidential election, but really what we should be looking at is this divided government. We should be looking at the Congress. We should be looking at the Senate and looking at what's there. Because right now now Georgia's a crazy thing, but it looks like that that there's going to be divided government. And when there is divided government, there's typically gridlock. And when there's typically gridlock, you don't see a huge change in lots of policies, especially around housing and the effect of housing. So I think there will be people that are frozen right now. They're just afraid that taxes will go up, this will happen, that will happen. But let's step away from how much effect can the federal government have on housing per se, directly to housing, and let's look at a couple other factors. Lowest interest rates we've ever seen. Okay, I mean it's almost free money that we're looking at now. I believe interest rates will go up because I'm a positive believer. No matter what happens here, I think we're going to see a vaccine. I think we're going to see confidence in the economy. We saw that for the most part the last week with the stock market. I think we're going to see there be a demand. I think you've got to look at I know our millennial agents and friends hate when we use and dub the millennial, but let's just take that socioeconomic group. The oldest millennials are now 40. Some of them are on their second and third home, and we've thought they've never bought houses. Others are looking at household formation. We work in marketplaces where The new apartment rentals are really expensive, but housing is still affordable, maybe even more affordable by a low interest rate, 3% interest rates, unheard of. So I think we forecasted before COVID and anything else, the company forecasted and the analysts we talked to thought 21 and 22 were going to be huge sales years because of the buyer demand. And the challenge was always going to be the inventory. The challenge was builders aren't building enough. Where's the inventory? That was going to be the challenge. And so I think we're going to see that continued buyer demand. I think you're going to see that increase. I think at low interest rates, people are going to get out of rentals and buy homes. They're going to be willing to take a home improvement loan. Now we also saw what COVID effect is. How many buyers have we seen that have moved into a second market? How many buyers have we seen move out of the big urban cities? I'm not saying moving out of the city of Cleveland from Tremont and moving to Rocky River. Might have seen some of that, but I'm talking about moving out of Chicago, New York City, other major cities that are there's not affordability, and deciding they're going to raise family and come home or go further upstate New York. Al, I know you've seen a big piece of that, and some of it's second home. People saying, well, I'm not going to travel overseas as much maybe, so I'm going to buy a second home. We have a lot of second home communities that have seen a jump because of that across the lake communities, the mountain communities, the sea communities, across all of our markets. It's not just going to Florida or going to Arizona. It's within our own footprint. So I actually think, and we're forecasting that 2021 is going to be an incredible year. You might see some people pause, that's without a doubt, but I believe you're going to have a huge consumer confidence. I think the vaccine is going to give an additional lift. I think it's going to be, especially the first, second, and third quarter is going to be there won't, if we have a little slow, it might be over the holidays, just sort of as we breathe, but we're going to see this same level of fast moving market that we've seen. Our challenge is, where do we get the inventory? And our challenge is how do we go out and say to sellers today who've been in a home, now is the time for you to sell. We can get you the highest price. Because even if rates go from 3 to 5, and 5 is still a low rate, that hurts buying power for somebody to be able to step up and buy more. So I'm really bullish on where we're going to be. But I mentioned Ivy Zellman spoke, and I said, Ivy, what's the one takeaway that our management team should know that they could share with our agents coming out of this? And it was without a doubt, the one share was, you've got to get the inventory. In fact, she even went as far as to say, if she was in the real estate brokerage business as an agent, she'd be talking to customers today who might want to list their house in March and saying, you know what, list with me today. List with me, and we'll put an addendum that says that you're listing with me. Let me get the photos taken before the snow comes. Let me talk to you about little things you might want to do around the house. And we can put the effective list date to put in the model list as March 1st. We don't have to put it in the model list because they don't want the days on market. But here's what will happen. If you go out and talk to one of your friends, talk to somebody in your sphere, tell them how great the market is, tell them you can get them $500,000 for their homes today. What's going to prohibit them from, even though I know that we won't have as big a holiday parties, but they're going to still see people at this time of year. They're going to talk to people. What prohibits them from saying, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house, and a direct sale that we aren't even involved in? It's not a for sale by owner. It's just somebody having the value and saying to a friend, saying to somebody they hear is looking for a house, hey, you could buy my house in Saratoga this month for $500,000 because the agent told me that I could get $520,000 and if I'm not paying a commission. That's what we have to be careful about. So why not get a contract signed now? And I know that sounds foreign, but we already have agents doing it. And we have agents doing it who are also saying, listen, you don't want your house on the market. I'm not going to have open houses. I can get my marketing materials together. But by the way, if you have a buyer that shows up from out of town or a buyer whose house sells that needs yours today, maybe we can still put it together with a delayed closing. There's things we can do. We can be creative. We don't need the multiple listing service to sell houses, in my opinion. But so I think we're in for a really strong market. I think that, Haley, you had a couple of these buyers that paused their home search. I'd be talking about urgency, about rates going up. I would talk to them about the confidence. We'll send out Ivy's video. Seeing Ivy's video might be helpful for you to have a confidence to share with your buyers because she really is analyzing the whole market. But I think that we've got to remain diligent and proactive and understand that now's the time and build into that urgency. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think when we're working with sellers, telling them that an increase in interest rates, and it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to stay at 3%. That hurts their market for putting their property on the market too. So, why it may hurt buying power, it's also going to hurt a seller looking to list their house 6 months down the road, because it could mean that there's less buyers in the market for that property too. So I think using some of those tools to push sellers into the market today and say, hey, list your house today. We know what the market is today. We don't know what the market is 6 months from now. We don't have a crystal ball. And if we do, it's a pretty gray crystal ball, so could there be a stimulus package? Yeah, there probably will be. What level will be at? We don't know. Could, as we move into the summer of next year, could the unemployment rate go down a little bit as there's a vaccine out there? Yeah, probably so. But those are all somewhat, things that are very hard to predict. We know the market today. We know what's going to happen today. We've got to push those sellers to get their property on the market today, or like you said, Hoby, with a listing agreement that starts in the spring sometime, so that we lock in that transaction. And when those people are out, socializing with their friends over the holidays, and someone says, hey, if you sell your house, I'd buy it today, we don't lose out on that opportunity.
Right. Tom, any thoughts on that?
Everything you guys have said is again spot on. But I think that one of the opportunities I think sometimes we miss is when we do have open houses, whether they're virtual or whether they're live. We know for a fact that 60 to 65% of people who visit those open houses have a house to sell. And it's really incumbent upon us at that open house to ask those buyers when they come in, has anybody given you an opinion of value? Now's a great time to sell your home. So look for those opportunities at your open houses, because those are great opportunities when people are walking into your open house or doing with your open house virtually, that you can pick up some additional listings over the next year. But also, don't discount one of our biggest competitors, at least in Pennsylvania, and I don't know what it's like in New York or some of the other states, but in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh market, one of our biggest competitors is for sale by owners. It's not always only the biggest competitor, but it's also the biggest opportunity, because those folks need help. And when we put a focus on going out and getting for sale by owners for listings, we are able to convert those. There's great NAR statistics about the odds are in your favor. There's only 11% of people who end up selling homes for sale by owners successfully. 89% of them end up listing with a realtor. So the odds are definitely in your favor. So looking for those opportunities going forward. And now is right. If the economy changes, and now's the time to build that inventory, because the inventory is going to get you through that first quarter, second quarter of 2021.
So I'm going to build off of that for sale by owner concept, because it was a question that did come up from one of our agents that said, with COVID, am I allowed to call people? And then specifically, am I allowed to call for sale by owners because they're marketing? So let me speak in generality. Almost every state that we've had no call lists for as long as I can remember. That people who register who say, I don't want to be telemarketed to and prospect. Okay, I believe telemarketing, this is me, and I'll take this against any legislative body. I believe telemarketing is picking up the phone, trying to sell something on the phone to a complete stranger that you've never met before, and specifically also trying to get somebody to write you a check or give you your credit card or Venmo you money over the phone. Hey, I've got a new record deal for you. All you need to do is give me your credit card number, and every month you're going to get something. Now, I know people can disagree with that, and I know some states, as Al and I talked, have like specific rules. Like New York, I think, Al, you told me you can't call for sale by owner unless you have a buyer. That's a solicitation. That's a New York State thing. As far I haven't heard about anybody else, but there's where I use to Tom's point. I think for sale by owners are a huge opportunity for us. I think that, to Al's point, even if you have a rule like that, use the royal we, the Howard Hanna we, because I can guarantee you, if there's a house for sale in Amherst, New York, for $400,000. We, Howard Hanna, have a buyer for that house. It may not be specifically, but if I called and said, hey, we've got buyers, and I turned around and said, I can get people into this new for sale by owner that I'm working on, here's the you'll get in there in the house. Now, I think when we went into COVID, there was this, don't bother people, they're at home, cold calling. And we had a lot of agents who said, okay, I can't call anybody. And I think we went too far with that, everybody, because go back to that calling complete strangers. If you're dialing for dollars, and I know there's people who do that. I know there's people who just get up every day and they get like a neighborhood and they're calling with communication and what's happening in the neighborhood. There's people who call and say, I got a new listing. I'm just calling. I'm not trying to solicit you. I'm calling to say, I'm going to put a for sale sign up in your neighborhood this week. And I wanted to let you know as a neighbor, in case you have a friend, you can send them my way or send them to the open house or make them aware. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's good old fashioned marketing. But I do think that for sale by owners are, Tom's right, a huge uptick that we should be paying attention to. And I even heard, it's funny, we know that company that begins with a Z and ends with a W that drives everybody crazy, is joining MLSs and so forth. And now they're gonna, they're gonna be a broker. And I wasn't gonna really talk too much about that. Well, I heard from one of our MLSs, well, they're not going to be able to put for sale by owners on their website anymore if they're a real estate broker and they're taking an IDX feed. And I said, why? And then I found out from another one of our brokers that a lot of agents are buying those FSBO leads as buyers and then trying to convert them. So we've got to go after the for sale by owner. We've got to go, there's a segment of the market. We've got to convince them that we can get greater value, that we have the buyers, that we take, if we take buy side and match up the buyers we have, we could sell your house quicker because I already know who to go market to, Mr. and Mrs. For sale by owner, you don't. So much in our technology allows us to really have that conversation and sell a home quicker. And the other thing that I'll throw out there about that inventory and that communication of inventory, and it's a little bit of a plug, and I think Al mentioned it before, that Mark Ray celebrating this, and this past week and starting Monday, you're going to see a lot of information come out and a lot of press releases and internal messaging and pieces that you can use to market. But Real Trends, which is a national publication of real estate, we didn't even know they were doing it. They did evaluation of real estate websites across the country, anything real estate related. And it wasn't just brokerages, it was anything real estate related. So that would be some of the portals. And they came back and we rated as the #1 real estate website across the board for different things, but most specifically, the #1 real estate website. Where do you get this one? For sellers. Okay. Every real estate website thinks it's about buyers. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, howardhanna.com, we get 2.8 million people coming to it a month. There's no other real estate website that has that much traffic in the country. Real estate brokerage website. You insert the name you think must have a lot of traffic. The sites that have more traffic than us begin with a Z, an R, a T, and they're not really brokers. Well, now one wants to be. Okay. Our website, and it's really strong hyperlocal, so we have to play that up. And I know Fred Corsi's not here today, but I know Fred's been talking to some folks about our website, and it's interesting. Some of our agents, you maybe haven't been to the site in a while. I mean, when a third-party group says it's the #1 website, there's been a lot of enhancements we've made in the last 6 months, in the last 6 years, create a greater stickiness and a greater experience. And one of those is that seller experience. Now, that's a Zillow killer, everybody. I know our agents want to look at how people go to Zillow. That's a Zillow killer. If we go to the highest mountaintop and say that according to Real Trends, not Howard Hanna, it's not a haughty PR move. It is, according to Real Trends, the best site for sellers in the country is howardhanna.com. And what we did is we built that out with buy side. We built that out with how many leads we have. We can tell a consumer, if you want to sell your house today, we have the buyers so we can sell it quickly. We're seeing leads come off of it. We're going to kick off a consumer contest that anybody who registers through to just see how much their home is worth over the next 3 months. We're going to have a drawing of $1,000 a month or maybe more that goes to just a random person who registered. You're going to get a marketing packet this week. As you're an agent, you want to jump on that. You want to start sharing that on Facebook. howardhanna.com, #1 website, #1 for sellers. Go to howardhanna.com, see the experience. The more traffic we drive there, the more that we get those sellers to see what their value is on their home. Use your own URL at howardhanna.com, agents. Don't just give them the howardhanna.com, give them, Janice Carson at howardhanna.com. So they're coming through you, the agent, and they're seeing your site and getting the valuation, and then you have that information. You have a look inside of them. There's a lot of things we're looking at. As I mentioned, Dennis was on that website meeting, that we're looking to enhance. We added the virtual tours. We added the ability to set a showing appointment. So many things that I'm not sure that we realize how strong. We talk about a lot of our technology tools and our productivity tools, and they're great. But there is something about this website, is that front portal, that we've got to believe in and flex our muscle a little bit and talk about. Dennis, thanks for jumping back on. I know you're on that website meeting, but we were just talking about for sale by owners, inventory, and creating that urgency. Any thoughts you have on that urgency creation right now?
Well, I think we need to use right now, there has to be an urgency to what you were just talking about with buy side. You know, I could go stand outside with a sign for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house at 300,000 and get 10 people driving by that want to see it next day. Getting buyers isn't the problem right now. Getting sellers off of the shelf, off of the fence, whatever you want to say, getting them to realize, even in a pandemic, that, hey, this is the best time to sell right now, because the affordability, even with prices going up, is through the roof. And every site out there, every company site out there is all buyer centric. It is so buyer centric, so buyer focused. We forget that, I think, sometimes. And I don't know if it's, it's a weird relationship with it, but this business is driven from listings. And what's better right now when we have all the buyers in the world, right? We have every single buyer, a listing comes on the market, or we hear about a listing and we got 10 people standing outside of the front door. But instead of having such a buyer-centric website, we have that seller-centric website. That's not just showing, okay, yeah, here's a price that you can get, because they show pricing history on different sites, but here's demand. Here's how the demand affects the price. And then here are how many leads that we have just within Howard Hanna that will be ready to look at your house. I think right now is the time, because there is urgency in the market. We need to have that to get those folks in our market to be using buy side, to send that out, to be using that as a marketing tool, as an agent, okay, to get people that are within our sphere and within our farms, whatever it is, to log in, look at their BMA, because I think that it will bring some of those people off the fence. I think it will let people realize, hey, if maybe they weren't even thinking about selling their home, but they need to now, or whatever it is, or they just see that there's a huge amount of demand that has driven price up 15, 20%. I think it's time that, we got to really make sure we're sharing that. So just like you're sharing any listing from the site, I think you got to be sharing the buy side portal and your own buy side link too.
Well, and Dennis, that's a really good point that you touched on, because a question that just came in that just came in as you were discussing was that, let me go. From Susan Lewis, I'm working with potential sellers also needing to buy. In a market with scarce inventory, it doesn't necessarily matter to them that they can sell at a premium price if they're buying in a similar market. And here's the one thing I'll say, that is a true economic statement typically, but and not knowing every seller, but with the power of, and they could be a cash buyer and could be other things, but the prices are up. But Dennis hit on that, with interest rates being at these record lows. If somebody's in a house, they could be trading up and they could be on an interest rate that's 5%. They may not have refinanced, buying new and being at 3% and trade up, and their dollar or their value spreads. And that's having to make that consultation with our customers, with the people we know, the people who are our friends, saying, should I sell my house? It's more of a consulting appointment today. Like, why are you selling the house? What are you thinking about? I can get you the premium price, but where are you going? Well, I want to just stay in the same neighborhood and I'm going to spend more, but are you going to get a bigger kitchen? Are you going to get a bigger house on, because of the price trade-off? Are you downsizing to an empty nester product? So it's got to be that consultation approach that we look at and say, and here's what your interest rates are. Here's what you're paying today. Here's where you can move forward. So I think it's a little more than just here's where the price is today or tomorrow. And I think that's important. I also think it's important that, one of the things that we discussed in the manager's advance, which, is maybe it doesn't matter as much to our agent base that's out there, but it sure matters to me. And it's not, I can give a lot of positives, but one of the things that's concerning me that I see as a trend, and I'm addressing it directly to our agents, is that in 2016, that throughout our whole footprint, we sold 38.9% of our own listings, meaning that if Dennis was the listing agent, or if Al sold one of Dennis's listings or so forth, a Hanna deal, an in-house deal, that in 2016, 38.9% of all the sales we did were in-house, meaning you did them with 2 Hanna agents, or you yourself, the listing agent, sold it. In 2020, we're at 32.9. Now that might be like, oh, we're still in the 30s, but that drop from 38 to 32 is huge. And it's shocking to me, because I'm worried that our culture is just hurry up and see what we can sell. instead of realizing that with buy side, with the agents who are already working with buyers agents internally at Howard Hanna, the people that you work with, the people that are pre-approved, not only if we went to the Howard Hanna agents, we could get higher price, pre-approved, sell the house faster, but we've got to get back to a culture of thinking Hanna first on our deals. We've got to be talking to each other, because the long tail effect of that makes it harder on you getting that listing appointment 2 years from now. If we're the dominant listing market player in Ithaca, and we're not hitting that, if we used to be at 38% of the in-house deals and we're at 32, okay, those become deals. There are listings that are sold by competitors that they move the market share dial. So when they're on a listing appointment, why should we list with Hanna? You know, I'm not saying market share is the only thing, but market share is a big aspect that says that the public's choosing you. It's just like these elections. You look at these percentages, you know, and people make decisions just on what the early poll indicators are. Some people are going to list their house with you in the capital region because we're number one, because you get the job done. And then you yourself as an agent could even say, not only are we number one as Howard Hanna Company, but look what I do in this submarket. But how many of your leads aren't coming to you anymore because Zillow and others are selling the leads to other people? How many of the leads are you not getting the opportunity to sell your own listing first? So we have to use the technology we have when we know who the buyers are, when we know they're out there, go to Hanna first, get that deal, maximize making sure those leads come to you, respond to the internet leads from howardhanna.com, because they will always go to you, the listing agent. We don't filter them. We don't scrub them. They go unscrubbed. Maybe we should do a better job of cleaning them up, but they go directly to the listing agents that are out there. So, you know, as a strong listing company, whether you have one listing or 100, you want to control, because that one listing you should be able to sell 3 to 4 homes from that one listing based on the buyer demand that's coming directly to you and targeting the market. So I think we really are, moving forward in a really positive way with the technology we have to even increase that Hanna first. Knowing at your loan officers, whether it's First Priority or Town Bank, who are the buyers that are already pre-approved in the market, so we know we can close them quickly. Because 96% of the time, a buyer that's pre-approved with one of our mortgage companies closes. So I just think this urgency, utilizing the tools, different things, I really think that it's we've got to maximize that and be carrying that through this next 2 months. So that's sort of we got into a long-winded answer of how's the election respond to this, how's COVID respond to this, what's the market going to look like going forward. And I think that, but there were a lot of questions in that sense. So really good stuff. All right, so I was going to jump to, there were some questions here that I dub as administrative as a whole. And sometimes sometimes people get stuck on something that is in a view administrative or a change, or it's affecting them. And I think I bring them up because I think that they're great questions. Some of them are individualized and they'll come back, but as a whole, there's some different questions that I have there. And one has to do with that was maybe more specific to a marketplace, but I don't want to discount it. That one person said, "Hey, we're seeing a slow pay out of commissions. A deal's closing and I'm not getting paid. And is it a change to our accounting software?" We haven't changed our accounting software. We haven't changed processes and procedures. What has changed is is sales expediting in a different way. Title companies and closing companies in some cases aren't doing roundtable closings. They're not inviting agents to that. They're doing escrow closings. They're mailing checks into us. House may close today, and the title companies or the attorney's not mailing us the check till next Tuesday. They've got less of a staff to process things as well. You're not going to closing and they're handing you a check. So we're still, I will tell you, we're turning around within 24 hours, all checks that come into us, no matter where in the country is, where in the system. But I will tell you, you talk about changes and things. If you aren't signed up for direct deposit, you should be. You know, and I know people like to touch and feel their own check, but the reality is if you want to expedite because direct deposit is being done like immediately. You know, if we're still mailing you a check and accounting's processing it and then putting it out to you, or even cutting it in a local market and then putting it in your mailbox, you know, direct deposit is out there. We offer it to all our agents. I did have a couple people surprised that we had direct deposit. I guess they didn't know that I talked to last week in a meeting. So direct deposit is there. Okay, so that's important. Two, some questions that came in there that were, I would say, are around that administrative question that may be that what I would address is that somebody said, well, hey, my office, we have some old desks, we have some old furniture, we have some other things. And so some people have asked me, well, yeah, how does that work? How does an office get upgraded, updated, whatever it may be? So I thought I'd just share that with you. So there's a whole process. It's not just like, hey, if you say you want your office or nobody cares, we have a whole process of a team, a facilities team that looks at offices. They look at a depreciation schedule. Now, the tough thing is, and that includes computers and other things that you sort of look at. We look at like about a 7-year depreciation. We buy new furniture, we buy new equipment, we try to depreciate it down for 7 years. We tie it to a lease. Are we staying in that lease? Are we moving to a new office? A lot of things that go into that, but I share it with you because we are making decisions. And every year we look at, 20% of our offices might get renovated and updated across the board. Little things can get done. And if there are some facility issues that you as an agent feel like, hey, there's a broken chair or something that's going on here, that comes back. Like somebody said, well, who would I talk to? Your manager and your regional, because there are little things like that we can fix real quickly and we should walk around. I do sometimes think that agents and managers and ourselves, we come into the office, it's like our house sometimes, right? I always say to our management team, it drives me crazy when I see like a shovel and snow salt. Dennis, you don't know what that is down in Virginia, North Carolina people, but when it's May and the shovel and the rock salt's still there in front of an office in Syracuse, I'm picking on you, Mark, but because Mark would clean that up, or in Cleveland or wherever, that drives me crazy because we just walk past it every day and nobody thinks about, it's like my kids, like I go into the room, I go, why is are the clothes still on the floor? Is that my job to pick them up? And they walk past it every day and they just don't see the mess. So little things that we walk past every day, we don't see. It's a good time of year for managers to go around their offices and with agents and just look at, are there bulletin boards that need to be cleaned up? And maybe in some cases we haven't been in the offices as much, so things get forgotten about. I know my brother-in-law was telling a story that he works at PNC, and they sent everybody home, and he was just called back that, he's allowed to come back into their offices, their corporate offices, and he went in the first day, and on his desk was the Wall Street Journal from March 11th. He hasn't been in his office since March 11th. He sort of go home, everybody just picked up and went home. So how much clutter is there from, even if we've opened our offices, are there things on the bulletin boards that need cleaned up, or their files? So we can look at that. And if you do have a question around that, please just make sure you talk to your manager, talk to your regional. It's not out of sight, out of mind. We just need to know where that is. There's also a question that came around staying in that same, how do we expand? Like, what does the company look for in terms of whether we should open a new office? What do we look for in terms of new locations? A couple of people said, will we open in Florida? Will we open in the Western states? We're having this growth. And then some, hey, should we have an office in this next community down or this next area? So let me just give you a little, and then a question said, well, who do I talk to if we want to open an office where I think there's an opportunity? And they're all great questions. So I'll take them at different levels. In the local footprint of the markets that we look at areas. Why would you have an office, a community office in an area? What we look at is that the office for us today to create all the service and support, the market area in the primary market, let's call it the school district, where that office sits, or a 5-mile radius, really in today's day and age needs to be about a $60 million single count market area for us to say, okay, we can go in there and service that. And there's always outliers to that, but that's one of the first things that Tom or Dennis or Al look at when looking at where their expanse should be. And then there's a formula and a structure around that to, how many agents do we have with us right now that we've recruited to go into that office and with that expanse, are we covering it? What's our market share coverage from where we already are? What's the purpose of adding that bricks and mortar? Because we talked this morning about all the technology that we need to add and things we're looking at in terms of, whether we should corporately add more virtual touring, more 3D tours on houses like there's so much that we're looking at, but bricks and mortar can be a big expense in today's day and age when fewer people are coming into offices. So, and we sort of look at, is the serviceable market, with a mega office, can it control that? What should it do? So on that first question of that was asked, like, where do we look at expanding from our footprints? Al or Dennis or Tom, do you guys have anything you want to add on that? And I would say, if you're thinking about it, if you as an agent or manager saying we should be here, these are the gentlemen on the call or Chris Burdick, Fred Corsi, Matt Rand, Phyllis Brookshire, those state presidents are the people you should call and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity here and why, and let them sort of massage it and say back to you. Fellas, do you have any thought?
Yeah, I'll just touch on it. I look at two things. I look at in-market opportunities and out-of-market opportunities. So an in-market one would be the opportunity to take two offices, do either an acquisition of one and bring them over to another office to help take maybe a $40 and a $50 million office and make it $100 million office with one larger group of people. And that brings a lot of, opportunity, one, just from a cost structure, but two, the more that you put people together that are doing solid, good business, the more it raises the bar for everyone in the office to do more business too. So competition breeds competition in an office. And I found that as a good means. But, as you look at other markets that are contiguous to yours too, what are some of those companies in there that you could reach out to, or that if you have a relationship with, those are people that we can start a dialogue with and move into that adjacent market or move into that adjacent state. But it takes a personal connection to do that. So if you guys have that personal connection, you've done some transactions with people in that office or a broker in that office, reach out to someone like myself or one of the market leaders or your regional manager and say, hey, this is an opportunity that's out there. How can we start the dialogue? How can we get the information on the company?
And Al's right. We look typically a couple different levels. There may be an infill location that maybe we feel we can better service, or as Hoby said, maybe there's we look at how much market share are we pulling out of that particular market right now. Can we increase that market share by adding a bricks and mortar office? But we're always looking for roll-ins or fold-ins of smaller brokerages and companies that again are like-minded to us, and they run our businesses very similar to us. Yes, I know that we're competing with them, and sometimes people say, oh, that's not a good company. Well, that's because we're competing with them every day. They might be really good people and we get to know them, and they might be a great role in, as Al said. The other thing is looking to look on a little bit more global aspect, at least in the state of Pennsylvania. Where can we grow the company inside the state of Pennsylvania? And we are looking at some opportunities now. As we move out towards central Pennsylvania, for example, in that market, there's some nice growth opportunities out there, and even looking at stretching into, for example, like our further south office in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, is like 8 miles from the Maryland border. So maybe looking at expanding into Maryland, looking for opportunities there to expand to those markets. So looking again at market, as Hoby said, what is the volume in the markets? What do we think we can capture? How many agents can we instantly start with? Those types of things like that. So, and Al's right on. It's spot on again. We all look at the similar things. How can we grow organically, and how can we grow by rolling in, operations?
Great. Dan?
Just to kind of add on top of what Tom and Al said, we have certain financial metrics that we're trying to hit if we're looking to start a brand new office. But I know that we've had, whether it's, recruiting, a big team in that's almost like an acquisition, or a roll in where you have a office that's close by that comes into the office that's already existing. We've had success with that and I think that, we had one at our oceanfront office where we combined operations. We had a company that was close by with a good operator and a good amount of agents, and we brought them into our team, and there's been a lot of success. I mean, I believe that the more green and gold signs we have out there, the easier it makes it for you all to do your job and go out and get listings, because when they see green and gold, even if it's somebody else's listing, they think they think the person that they know, they think the person that sold them their house, the person that, is talking with them every other day. So I just think that the more of those things that we can do that make sense, the better. And, there are a lot of good folks out there that we can bring in, and, it does make our jobs easier to be able to list more and more if we have more green and gold signs out there.
And then I would say that the point of it that comes up in a lot of these town halls is like, okay, are we opening in Florida or somewhere warm or somewhere? Let me say this, that our growth strategy, which is a fine question for people to ask, our growth strategy is one in which that if we're going to go to a new market, and this has always been the case, we want to do it with a like-minded company that that fits in. You know, the Allen Tate deal company is one that fits right in culturally. Even if the brand is a different brand, that they use the same tools, the same programs, their cultural fit. And that took us into the Carolinas, the right company taking us in the Carolinas. We just didn't open in the Carolinas because we thought, hey, there would be a good referral source, or because some people like to be warmer. I mean, looking into Florida, and everybody always talks about Southwest Florida. Yeah, there's great opportunities to be there. Be one of those like-minded companies that we've done business with in the past, wanting to do something strategically with us, or out in the West, as opposed to just jumping out and opening an office. The other thing is, we don't want to do something with any company that would hurt the brand and the value of who we are and the integrity of all of you as agents that are on this call and work out throughout the company, and that you're, as I've always said, you're as much Howard Hanna as anybody named Hannah. You represent the brand every day, and so I wouldn't want to do anything that would. And we've had opportunities in the past where companies have said, let's do something, and we've said this just won't mesh. So we're looking at the right thing. The other is, I always bring up that when we grow, it's important for people to know is that whether it's through an acquisition or others, is that we never want to do it where it takes away from any of the existing markets. So it has to be a company that can stand on its own 2 feet, add the value that we bring in there, and it doesn't take away dollars, resources, time away from the entire marketplace and the existing marketplaces were there, because those markets are, whether it's our oldest market in southwestern Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, or whether it's our newest market in around New Jersey and downstate New York, we want to be able to support all those markets for all you need as agents to continue to grow. So that's a big thing. So that's sort of that growth, and who do you talk to and where do you go? If you have a friend that wants to, if you know somebody out there that wants to do something, yourself want to do something, you could start with me and say, hey, Hoby, I think we have an opportunity. I'd like to introduce you to a broker here. We also have a gentleman named Tom Scheller that looks at our franchise opportunities. There are markets that that aren't in existing markets where we are, that we think they could be good franchises. And Tom Scheller is in the directory. He's a good person to start with too, because the question was, who would I call if I wanted to do something or knew somebody who did? So thanks for that. Staying with that administrative thing, I also think we have to do a better job of maybe explaining, and I know this could be specific, but I was just talking about how we in-house sales and we got to promote somebody. And there was a comment about, well, we've changed out our traditional phone system and that we can't send a voicemail to everybody. You can. When we've changed out phone systems, they still can connect. Whether we have as many physical phones sitting in an office, everybody has sort of a mailbox and an IP, and there's a way to broadcast. So when we change certain things, it doesn't mean things. So we have to do a better job of educating that as we move into technology, that we give you the support to understand how things work, and make sure you give them support. So that's that administrative. That's anytime we change something. We owe it to our agents, our management team, and our leadership team. You guys, we owe it to our agents and our team to always give the why we've done something. If we're making some substantive changes that technology may advance and change, the business may advance and change, it's not enough just to tell you, our agents, our business partners out there, this is what we did. We've got to make sure that we're over explaining to you the why and the understanding of that could be because of technology, it could be because of industry, it could be because of reinvestment of dollars, that there's always a why that we would start looking at doing something different, and how we replace something and give you the communication piece so you just don't feel lost because of change. So some good comments there, and our management team just needs to do a better job, all of us, myself included, of doing that. The other topic that was on there was some training topics and some people asking about education and how we could advance. Comment was made about the summit was great. You got to hear through Zoom a lot of different people from different markets. How can we better enhance with today's technology, connecting people in different markets? So you're able to learn from people in other areas, maybe not just in an office setting or in a region setting, across the board. It was, and there's a couple of those, one was, how do we get more roundtables of respected agents from different markets to talk about topics, talk about how they stumbling blocks and how they have turned them into building blocks and different things that could help you. I will tell you that that's something that, as we saw a little bit of that, even on these town halls of agent sharing, it's something our education department's been working really hard on this last few months of looking at how we can create more connectivity, how we can create more agent sharing, even if it's creating agent groups that could be connected across state lines. I mean, there was another question of that somebody specifically said that NAR says the average real estate agent is 55 years old. However, I do see there are a number of young professionals who are starting to make their mark. How we thought about developing a young professional group. And we do have some young professional groups that are de facto that are out there in different markets, but that's one of those other areas education's looking is how do we create more connectivity of that? How do we make sure that we're listening to the voice of our younger agents? And sometimes I'd say this, younger realtors that are out there, we want you to be a big part of our growth of our company. So, you know, I will say that sometimes it's our fault that we're not connecting with our younger agents as much because of ages and so forth. And sometimes it's the agent not realizing that the way you really maximize your success at Howard Hanna is like dive in and be completely part of it. And that means, you know, reach out to us, tell us the things that you think you need, how we can put you together. Can we create more YPN groups? Can we do more things to support you? How do we help you evolve as leaders and evolve your career, as well as making sure we're taking care of our agents that you know, that are at a different stage of their career. It's a multi-generational company with multi-generational marketing. We want to support everybody, not only clients, but our agents in that sense. So we're going to work really hard to bring more education that's collaborative across state lines and across boards and more localized. And if you have ideas, you know, you're seeing three of the people that you should be sharing them with if they're in your market and others. That's how we enhance. That's how we've always grown the company, through the innovation that comes from the sales. Dan, you have any comments on that education front?
No, I mean, I think that, you know, the pandemic has brought a lot of changes. And one thing, if we can look at a negative, turn it into a positive, right? It's that global perspective, that global connectivity that we've been able to have. We have so many wonderful, experienced, really dynamic trainers and educators within our organization. And I think before March 2020, there was a lot there. It was more just market to market. They were in those markets. Now you've seen, I mean, these people now are kind of like household names within the organization, but, you know, we've been able to utilize those folks and leverage that talent to help bring that knowledge and bring that experience to not just new agents, but experienced agents too. People that are busier now than ever and need to know whether it is, you know, how do I utilize Engage CRM to make my life easier? Or how do I market buy side to drive more listing leads? I think it has been really good to be able to, you know, have that, see that full power of the company and see that full power of the Hanna family at work, really.
So yeah, thanks, Dan. So I'm going to conclude on this. I mean, this has been a great dialogue and discussion. I appreciate all the questions in the chat and also that were sent before. As I mentioned, some of your questions, which were great eye openers for me and very, very specific. We're going to make sure people follow up with you if they are specific to your topics. But I don't want you to feel like we ignored anybody's question, but I tried to lump them into categories. What I would say is to conclude is that, this is sort of a mantra for me across the board for the company, that the next few months, especially as we finish strong, as we finish this year, which looks like it'll be a record-breaking year in light of COVID, which is amazing to me. But a few things I would say let's finish strong with. First is, I already said about it. How can we, and it takes every individual agent, I'll be honest with you, how do we get back to the importance of Hanna first? We got Tate folks, Tate first. How do we get back to that importance of working together? Because we know that when we do a deal internally with two Hanna agents, it's going to go smoother. You got a management team involved in making sure the deal closes. We got everybody caring. And then when you add on mortgage and title and insurance to it, you got so many hands on deck to make sure that customer experience is great. And we create that customer for life. Because most of our markets, when we give away, and somebody mentioned that in a panel, when we give away a deal to somebody else, some small company, some freedom shop, somebody, it hurts us on the long tail, because that's a seller who might not come back to us because they're going to go to this other agent, even if it was somebody who did one deal. So how do we make sure we keep those deals inside and keep them as one company? The other is, you know, that's one of my main focuses as we end the year, that we get back to that culture. We get back to that in-house drive, and we work as a team in that sense. Number two, we're going to do a lot of education and training, to carry out the end of the year like we've done, virtual. We were hoping some more in classroom, but that doesn't look like it with this spike right now. But a lot of virtual coming to you that you, and a lot of things you can do on your own tutorial. One is we want you to finish strong. Look at where your business is. How do you close your business out? But we will begin a lot of business planning sessions that'll be online and virtual, led by people you see on this phone and other regionals in this next few months. The business planning of how you're going to set your goals and build for 21. Please take advantage of that business planning. Sit down with your manager, find that time, go to a regional, find somebody in the organization so that you can set those goals and we can help you look at where your business is coming from and what you can enhance. A lot of that's coming forward. The other training that we see, and if you want to grow your business, maybe some of you on this call are just, you're good. I know a lot of agents are like, I'm good at how I do it. I'm good at what I do. But we just got some statistics. I shared them with the managers at our Managers Advance. You'll probably see them starting next week because they were eye-opener. We took all the agents in the company, everybody, all 10,000 agents, and did a cross-section of who uses Open to Close, Real Scout, and CRM, and Engage. Who really uses them? And is their productivity higher because of it? Something we've said for 3 years. If you use these tools, your productivity will be higher. We just took the 3 and that we've had for over time. And this is just incredible. And just, you'll see these graphs, but I just want to give it to you that took the time to be on this call. And think about yourself. The top 100 agents using Spacio Open to Close. So there's some of you on this call who've never used Spacio Open to Close. Okay. But the top 100 agents that use it closed 43% more volume so far this year than the average agent in the company that didn't use it. Think about that for a minute. You want a real low-hanging fruit to grow your business. Every client you meet in an open house. And by the way, you could use Spacio with every buyer you work with. You just plug them in and put them in there. And I know this gets confusing to people, but the minute you put them into Spacio, they can connect with people you connect with the person on social media. It also then automatically puts it into Real Scout and automatically puts it into Gauge. So if you have a buyer who wants to go out and look at houses today, just have them, they could just do the QR code. Even if they're not from an open house, have them put the information into Spacio. Let it be the start of your process, because 43% is a significant increase of those agents using that tool. Then we looked at Real Scout. Now, this is the one I still don't know why some of our realtors won't use Real Scout. And the reason I'm told, and I've been told, I'm too busy to learn it. I don't want to change things. I really like the MLS's information that they send. All right, the top 100 agents who have active alerts in Real Scout, their closed volume was so far in 2020, 183% higher than the agent who doesn't use Real Scout. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't give you anything easier. Every one of your clients, past clients, should just be in there. We have stories anecdotally over and over again this year of somebody saying, I met a buyer. I don't even know where I met him. And they called me 6 months later because they've been getting Real Scout updates and want to buy this house. And it's not even my listing. If we're not using Real Scout, if you today are, if 183%, if you're not using Real Scout, simple. Once you put the people in there, you don't have to do anything. It's not like some of the other processes, which is the next one, which is Engage CRM. We developed a CRM that has campaigns and neighborhood news and everything else. Now, this is another crazy thing I've been saying for years. Take all your clients, sign them up for neighborhood news. People say, I don't want to spam people. I don't want to send them too much. All right. The top 100 agents using neighborhood news have closed 237% more business than those that don't use neighborhood news. I can't, like, when Dan Riley and Phyllis looked at these numbers and gave them to me, and I said, that can't be true. I want to see it substantiated. I want to see the reports. 183%, 237%, 43%. I want every one of you on this call to have the biggest year in 2021, to finish with a bang in 2020, to make as much money as you can for you and your families, and if you do that, so will Howard Hanna, all boats rise. But if you're not using these programs that we've given to you, that we've developed, it's considered best in industry. No other brokerage firm has what we have, but it's just a question of whether we use it. But if it's just my dream, if every agent would start using this, the business would go through the roof. I mean, life would be easier for every agent. New agents would do more. Top agents would do more with less. You adjust, your business would increase. It would come to you as easier using the technology. I can't, the old adage, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I don't know what else to give everybody in the company other than saying these tools work. And if you're not using them, maybe the fourth quarter is a good time to look at how you're adding that to your business planning and how you're growing. You've got great managers, you've got great leaders as you've met today on this phone, and these are only some of them who are focused on your growth. I'll say it again, I've said it a million times. Thank you all. Thanks for took the time today. Thanks for all of our agents, our employees, our managers who've worked so outstandingly hard and still are through this fast, crazy market. It's just, I just thank you so much. And so with that, I'm going to conclude. Even though Kathy Barge threw out when are Pennsylvania getting electronic management, Kathy, I would tell you, go call Tom Saponis because we've launched it. So I'm not sure why it's not there. So thank you so much. And have a great Thanksgiving. If I don't get to see you, thanks for all that you give back to the company, and have a great weekend. Gentlemen, anything you have to conclude?
Happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Have a great
Happy
week.
holidays, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy
what you're
Masters
doing.
week too.
Yeah.
Early Christmas present in November. See you all.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye, everyone.